everyone. A very warm welcome to the Wise Owl Studio Talks. I'm Rachna Singh, editor, The Wise Owl, a literary and art magazine. And today it is my pleasure to welcome in our studio a multifaceted, multi-talented writer, a great human being, and a man with immense courage and fortitude.
Thank you.
So, dear viewers, Mr. Ramendra Kumar.
Thank you so much. It's such a pride, privilege and pleasure to be on this amazing platform.
So let's just dive into the conversation, shall we?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So let me start with an icebreaker of a question. You have been trained as an engineer. You've also got a degree in MBA. So how did you transition from being an engineer to being a writer? Because now you are a writer of children's books, you're also writing books on young adults. So was there a defining process here or a defining moment here?
Great question. Actually, there was no transition as such. I wrote my first poem when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
And it was a pathetic piece of verse. It went something like this. Topsy and Tim went for a swim.
Oh God.
Topsy swam well and broke the spell. Tim swam badly and went home sadly. Such a sad piece of verse. But the proud poet in me took it to my dad. And I was slightly apprehensive. He would say, "What is this? You're writing silly poetry. You should be studying like Putul Auntie's daughter or Chadda Uncle's son." But he didn't say any of these things.
Okay.
He just picked me up, gave me a tight hug and said one word. Wonderful.
Oh,
so today if I'm a writer with 51 books and so many translations or whatever, it's because of that sweet gesture
defining moment
and that defining word.
Yeah. Wonderful. The pat on the back that your dad gave you. Right. So another thing, you were talking about poetry just now. Your first creative piece was a poem. So, but now you are, like I said, a writer of children's books and books on young adults or for young adults. So how did that transition happen?
So I meandered into fiction, a bit of satire, poems of course.
Right.
When my daughter was 4, our son was born.
Okay.
And both me and my wife Madhavi were working in Roorkela steel plant.
Right.
So her hands were full. So she encouraged me. She motivated me. She inspired me.
Okay.
She said, "You're such a useless fellow.
That's
good
some
for,
motivation.
Good for nothing. You can't cook. You can't even boil an egg. You can't run a washing machine. You can't wash bums. You can't sing lullabies. You think you're a great writer, no? So tell stories to our daughter.
You can't make
Ankita.
a hot water milk bottle. Right?
Yeah. So you tell stories to Ankita while I take care of Aniket, the baby.
Okay.
So now that was a challenge which I couldn't naturally give up before trying. So I decided to tell stories. But the egoist that I am, I said, why Ramayana, Mahabharata, Panchatantra? And weave my own stories. So I started thinking of little tales.
Okay.
And I don't know whether Ankita loved the antics because I'm a terrible singer and I think a great dancer, or the content. But the stories which she liked best went to the word processor, from there to the editor, and that's how my journey into the lovely, beautiful world of children's literature started.
Okay. So if I was to ask you, what was that one thing that attracts you to children's books, or rather writing children's books? Would you say the motivation given by Madhavi or your daughter, or would you say it was something else?
Actually, the world of children is so beautiful, is so innocent, and the feedback is so transparent. And when you connect with them, the joy, the exuberance, I can't define in words. Okay. So whenever I write for children, whenever I tell them stories, I enjoy the process and the sheer unadulterated joy which I feel. It cannot be compared with interacting with adults or writing for adults. That's why this is the idyllic world.
So exuberance,
energy, joy, innocence.
Right.
And the fact that in a child's world, impossible is nothing. Anything can happen. Imagination and creativity. And that's the world I would like to live in and create for the kids.
That's a great reason to be writing, actually. Yeah. So, like you just said, you're also a performance storyteller. So, tell the viewers what that actually means.
Performance is when you're enacting it out.
Yeah,
you're not just telling it like this.
Okay.
So you're enacting it, you're jumping, you're singing, you're dancing. So it started with me telling scary stories to my son and daughter. So when I would start, my son would be sitting at the edge of the bed, and the story would start something like this. At the stroke of midnight, Sharda came out of her house and started walking towards the jungle. And her anklets or pile made this sound. Chum, chum, chum.
Nice. Interesting.
At that moment, there was a howl from the jungle. And my son would move forward. Then as Sharda approached, there was a huge building. And the door of the building opened. My son would even move forward. And from inside the building appeared a huge monster. And from his claws, blood was dripping. Drip, drip, drip. My son would be closer. And by the time Sharda vanquished the monster, or the monster gobbled up Sharda, my son Aniket would be sitting on my lap, holding me tight and shivering with pleasure and anticipation. And those beautiful moments are indelibly etched in my mind, heart and soul.
Right.
So that's performance storytelling.
So I remember in the Bangalore Litfest, all the children were dancing to your tune. You were dancing with them. You posted that video on Facebook. I saw it.
So that's performance storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. So any other anecdotes you would like to tell us other than the one you just talked about?
So there was once my wife and I, we went to Abu Dhabi. So there we were taken to a school. And when I walked in, there were around 1100 kids in the age group 8 to 12. Now that's a very difficult age group to handle. And 1100 kids, my wife thought I'll have a concussion. I told her, don't worry. And for the next 1 hour, I sang with them, I danced, I told a magic mantra. And that experience was really something. And when I was walking back, they almost fell on top of me with their slam books for the autographs and all that, and had to be literally extricated.
That
was real joy. And one of the teachers said that this kind of a rock star performance we have never seen. We're almost like a rock star or like a cricketer like MS Dhoni.
So yeah, great. No wonder they are riveted, the children. Okay, so Ramendra, tell me, now every fiction writer has their own patented creative process, Some sort of have a plot and they put characters into it. Others start with a character and they build a plot around it. So what is your secret of creativity?
So what I do is the plot, the characters are formed in my head.
Right.
I just think about them and all.
Right.
And I allow it to kind of simmer.
Okay.
Yeah. For sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. And in a particular instance, it took me 12 years because I didn't have the time or inclination or whatever.
Okay.
So when the structure is loosely firmed up, when it is firmed up, and when I get an opportunity, I go to my laptop and write it.
Okay.
Type it down. Okay. That's my first draft.
Okay.
And my second draft usually is my final draft. I don't revisit it again and again.
You don't believe in redrafting?
I don't believe in that at all.
Okay.
And my father's blessings that I have the ability to store ideas in my head, like I said, for weeks and sometimes years.
Okay.
So I allow them to marinate. And when the moment is right, or when I have the time and the inclination, it just comes.
Like the spontaneous overflow.
Exactly.
Spontaneous talks about. That's right. So now I'm going to encroach on something that is your personal space. And please ask me to back off if you are uncomfortable at any point in time. So you fought the dreaded cancer. And that needs a lot of grit and fortitude. So tell us in brief about how the initial diagnosis happened, how it impacted you, how you reacted to it. I saw Facebook posts that you'd put. It was probably pre-cancer. You say you're dancing with your daughter, I think?
I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about that. So on November 29th, me and my family, we were sitting in front of the gastroenterologist, and he started, he had a look at the reports and the scans, and he made the announcement as if he's reading from Doordarshan's weather report. Poker faced. Mr. Ramendra Kumar, you've got cancer, stage 2B. And he talked about radiation and chemo and stoma bag. I didn't know what the hell a stoma bag was. I stumbled out of the hospital and we went to the canteen, and there I simply cut loose. I raved and ranted. Why me? Poor me? How come me? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm slim and trim, I exercise, I swim. Then how the bloody hell has this scourge slammed into me? Just then I saw the faces of the three people I love, I adore the most in my life, simply crumple. It was as if they were seeing my death in my own eyes. At that instant, I decided that I couldn't do this to them. It was not their fault that this damn disease had slammed into me. As a storyteller, as a writer, as an inspirational speaker, I knew there had to be a paradigm shift. I had to create my own script, write my own script, live it and love it. And let me share with you that I've had a extremely chaotic childhood. I'm a suicide survivor at the age of 15.
Oh my God.
My parents separated when I was 16. I suffered from a clutch of very serious ailments. One is brittle diabetes, where the sugar levels swing from one extreme to the other, extremely low to extreme high. Then silent thyroiditis, where the thyroid levels again swing. Then in 2015 I was diagnosed with a condition called hemangioma, where there was a polyp growing near the vocal cords, and I was almost losing my voice. I was rushed from Rourkela to Apollo, and a very critical surgery was performed. In between I had trysts with the COVID and tuberculosis.
Oh my God.
But during this entire chaotic period, my mantra was managing every tumor with humor. And now when I was facing with the biggest challenge of my life, I decided to go back to my mantra, my humor.
Because that's a very rough patch. I mean, right from the time you were 15 to so late in life. How old were you when this diagnosis happened?
50, 59, 58,
so
59.
So many years, a really long rough patch, you know? Achha, so tell me, normally when somebody is diagnosed with cancer in a family, it is not just the person who's afflicted with the disease, you know, who suffers. It's the people around him. The impact on the family around is also equally severe, if not more so. So how did your family, you know, respond to this? How did they sort of rally around you and help you out of this entire upheaval of your life?
That's such an important observation you have made. It is so critical. We forget the role played by the caregivers, the family. In my case, I was lucky to have a family which was rock hard in support. They were taking me to scans and tests and making sense of the reports. And I was in the ICU for 40 days. Let me tell you about the journey very quickly. I suffered 3 septic shocks. The probability of surviving one septic shock is only 20 to 30%. 3 times I knocked on the door of death, shook hands with Lord Yamraj, and walked back to the kingdom of the living. My beautiful, gorgeous wife played Savitri to my Satyavan. And I endured 4 major surgeries, 10 rounds of chemo, 5 rounds of radiation, and I was in the ICU for 40 days.
So the septic shock was because of the chemotherapy?
No. The surgery went haywire. The first surgery was okay. The second surgery went haywire, and then the septic shocks. So when I was in the ICU, when my family would come and visit me during the visiting hours in the morning, they couldn't be sure that I would be alive in the evening. And when they would come in the evening, they wouldn't be sure that they would be able to see me the next day. But throughout all this, they never ever pressed the panic button. They never ever made me realize the kind of hell I was walking through on a day-to-day basis. Rachna, children of late 20s and early 30s, they provide the logistic support. The best hospital, the best doctors, the best care, but they don't give their time, energy and effort. My children, both of them, they put their career and life on hold for those 7-8 months, and they were around their mama and papa.
That's how beautiful.
And without them and without my wife, I wouldn't be here talking to you. That's my incredible family, and I call them Ma. Amitabh Bachchan had his Ma in Diwar. My Ma is Madhvi, Ankita and Aniket.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, it's the family that wraps you up, you know, holds you close and doesn't let you go and says, okay, stand, stay there.
In the cocoon of concern, in the cocoon of care, in the cocoon of empathy.
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. Amazing, amazing journey. So from here, let me move to a space where you're writing and your personal life intertwine. I'm talking about the book you wrote on cancer, Coping with Cancer. Let's take a look at that. This is his book, Coping with Cancer. So tell me the genesis of this book. I mean, because when you are talking about a rough patch in life, when you try to write it, it means you're going to be reliving that rough patch. I know. So must have been a very tough thing to do, putting it down in words.
It was also cathartic. So there were a lot of books in the space of cancer writing, which talked about the hospital, the doctor, the treatment and all. But there was no book which talked about how to cope with your emotions and feelings when the emperor of all melodies slams into you. So I wanted to write a book which simple mechanisms, everyday insights and strategies which people like you and me can adopt to manage our feelings and emotions when we are faced with cancer or any other major crisis like the death of a partner, of a serious accident, a loss of a job, a divorce or whatever. So they are very generic strategies for all chaotic events,
any adversity,
any tough situation.
All right. So great. So
I think I would like to share a few.
Absolutely. I must pick this book up. Looks like a great book, simply written, and I'm sure it would engage the readers.
Thank you.
So, okay, one last question. We talked about adversity, of course, and they say that adversity is a great teacher. So, just a very short, what did it teach you?
So, to answer this question, I would like to read out a parody. You must have heard Amitabh Bachchan's dialogue in Silsila, मैं और मेरी तन्हाई अक्सर बातें करते हैं. So, I have written in Hindi a parody, मैं और मेरा कैंसर अक्सर ये बातें करते हैं. And this would, I would like to share my learnings and the takeaway for the audience, the viewers, of what cancer taught me and my family.
Wonderful.
So just let me read out.
Of course.
मैं और मेरा कैंसर अक्सर ये बातें करते हैं, तुम न होते तो ऐसा होता, तुम न होते तो वैसा होता. न रेडिएशन का यूं तोड़ना, न कीमो का निचोड़ना, न सर्जरी की दहशत, न स्कैन्स की परेशानी, हर ओर एक काली स्याही, एक अजब सी हैरानी. मैं और मेरा कैंसर अक्सर ये बातें करते हैं, तुम न होते तो ऐसा होता, तुम न होते तो वैसा होता. पर कैंसर, तुम न होते तो मैं हंसता नहीं इतना, हर पल गले लगाकर, हर पल को गले लगाकर मैं जीता नहीं इतना. पर कैंसर, तुम न होते तो मैं हंसता नहीं इतना, हर पल को गले लगाकर मैं जीता नहीं इतना. रिश्तों की भी शायद सही पहचान नहीं होती, मेरे दिल में सदा खिलती ये मुस्कान नहीं होती. रिश्तों की भी शायद सही पहचान नहीं होती, मेरे दिल में सदा खिलती ये मुस्कान नहीं होती. यूं हालातों से लड़ने की हिम्मत नहीं होती, अपनों को हिम्मत देने की ये ताकत नहीं होती. यूं हालातों से लड़ने की हिम्मत नहीं होती, अपनों को हिम्मत देने की ये ताकत नहीं होती. कैंसर, तुमने मुझको खुद से मिला दिया, विष में घोलकर ही सही जैसे अमृत पिला दिया. तुम न होते तो अब इतना मस्त नहीं रहता, कल की फिक्र में आज को मसल देता. कैंसर, तुम न होते तो अब इतना मस्त नहीं रहता, कल की फिक्र में आज को मसल देता. मैं यूं ही पड़ा रहता, जिंदगी भी पड़ी रहती. मैं यूं ही पड़ा रहता, जिंदगी भी पड़ी रहती. जिंदगी लंबी तो होती पर बड़ी नहीं रहती, जिंदगी लंबी तो होती पर बड़ी नहीं रहती.
क्या बात है जी, वंडरफुल वंडरफुल. Hats off to a cancer soldier.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So viewers, that was Ramendra Kumar talking to us about his writings and his fight with the dreaded malaise of cancer. Hats off to him.